And I always think of her. Late at night I call her, but I never say a word. And I can see her squeeze the phone between her chin and shoulder. Smell of breath, faint with a sweet scent of decay. She serves him mashed potatoes, and she serves him peppered steak with corn. She pulls the dress up over her head, lets it fall to the floor. Does she ever whisper in his ear all her favorite fruit? And all the most exotic places they are cultivated, yeah. Take her there, rather than this train. And if I were a civil servant, I'd have a place in the colonies. We'd play croquet behind whitewashed walls and drink our tea at 4. Within interventions, distance of the embassy. One of these days, when you figure it all out, well, be sure to let me know. Well, I'll be waiting right here. Come and whisper in my ear what it is I wanna know. into it, way on over our heads, and you'll find that there's no place to hide. But if you fight and if you fail, don't fall back into yourself. You can't fall back on me. These days, when you figure it all out, put your lips against my ear. Tell me it all, tell me just a little bit, you know it's what I wanna hear. One of these days, when you figure it all out, well, be sure to let me know. Well, I'll be waiting right here. Come and whisper in my ear what it is I wanna know. One of these days, figure it all out. Put your lips against my ear. Tell me it all. Tell me just a little bit, you know it's what I wanna hear.
Rolling. You're rolling. We'll talk about that because you mentioned, and I've heard these stories over the years, but you guys have known each other forever, right?
Yeah, probably since like about 78.
Wow.
Or so.
And so.
Because we're all, they should do a reality show called The Real IE, The Real Inland Empire. It's in California, might know what we're talking about. I don't know if anybody in the rest of the country does. But our part of Southern California. We all grew up, the three of us grew up out there. And so we've been around each other for a very long time.
So this touring and this year after year of, the few bands you guys are in, all the adventures, this is nothing new for you guys. You guys know each other well enough, or this has just been an ongoing adventure forever.
Yeah, this has been a lot of years going on. It's 1983, really, I guess.
Yeah.
We kind of started a band, although I don't think we intended it to be anything. Did you come on?
Let me ask them if they can.
Woody, what? We chop liver up here?
Just for 10 minutes, yeah. Thank you.
It's the music from the former
Yeah,
Club.
exactly.
I think so.
I was about to get up and,
They got the same deal.
Actually, the funny thing is Woody's our old sound guy who's in the house.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot more
like,
involved.
sort of weird coincidences.
What?
So.
In the name Cracker, not knowing who you guys were, going there for the Meat Puppets and seeing you walking through and just wow, and then it was pretty fully formed in lots of ways.
Yeah, by then it was. I think we had Davey and Joey
Peters, who later
Yeah.
joined Grantly Buffalo.
Sure.
Actually. Was in Grantly Buffalo before us, and then again after us.
Wow, yeah. Just a little on the same street as okay. All right, so back to as far as just you guys talking about just we established how close you guys are, just this ongoing kind of like traveling tour that it seems to never end at this point. After there was a little bit of a break with Camper, talk about just kind of the momentum of this traveling circus that you guys have going on.
Well, we have do a Camper Van Beethoven show there. We're like, all right, we'll go there. So we end up playing all the time because it was sort of two bands.
A lot of, it's a lot of weekend action. There's a lot of weird trips that we wouldn't really expect today. Sometimes it's full blown. It just goes back and forth. They're always, they talk about the Dylan never-ending tour. Like, that's just kind of how it's been for years.
We've been doing that for years. I've been doing like over 100 or around 100 shows a year. Like, for I don't know how long. I know the last time we did it, it was like 99 or something. We didn't do 100 shows or something.
But it's obviously because the demand is there to see you guys play. What does that feel like at this point in your career? 'Cause you guys have been doing this for a while, to know that the audiences are still coming out for all these shows.
Feels lucky.
Yeah,
Feels
really
good.
lucky. I work, like a lot of musicians I know, I work a day job, and it's funny because there are a lot of musicians I work with who are like, how do you still do it? I'm like, I'm lucky, I'm lucky. Really, that's all there is to it. That people are still really dedicated to both bands. I mean, we have definitely got some super bands out there who just kind of keep us alive.
We're lucky that we just, have our choice of sort of when to play, when we want to play, and that when we do go out and play, there's like people to see us, whether we have a record on the radio, a video on television. Does that still happen anymore? I don't know that there are videos on television anymore, unless you're a country artist. And it's like people come to see us. It's cool, and I mean, kind of all over the world too. It's different scale in different countries. Some places bigger, some places smaller. It's cool. We can go anywhere.
We have a lot of core areas, that are, Seattle always seems to be good and sold out, no matter record, no record.
And Spain.
Chicago, Spain. New York City is always good.
Yeah, New York. New York kind of did this kind of a ramp. It was always pretty good, and then it got better. Now it's one of the best places for us.
Yeah.
Well, we've been around a long time, and people are just. It's getting harder and harder to avoid having heard some of our music.
I like that.
Is that a
You
good
can't
feeling?
escape on.
To kind of know you kind of cemented your place in history in lots of ways?
Yeah, kind of. I don't think the history's actually been completely written yet, but and it's definitely not correct quite yet, but yeah, that sort of has happened to us. We're definitely like sort of getting to that point where they sort of say, legendary acts and stuff like that. We're still making records.
Godfathers of whatever the genre they pick. Or whatever.
Right. Is that strange? Because you guys probably still feel like kids in lots of ways, and is that strange just to already be called legendary? And
yeah, I feel like a kid. Still.
Yeah.
What's
odd is that we still get to meet some of our heroes that are a couple years ahead of us, and we feel like kids then, like, oh, John Doe's gonna come play our festival. Oh man, you're a kid again.
I was hanging with John at Slim's in San Francisco, and we were talking about how everything's going, and I was like, fine, and we just got off the road. I'm really tired. It's harder now that I'm 40. It's like, to be 40, and it's it's not. I don't know if it's an old man's game as much as it's a young man's game, but
it's a tough man's game.
It's a tough man's game. It's just.
I read somewhere that the average lifespan of a recording rock band is like 6 years. So it's like the cat with 9 lives. We're
like 4 times that at this point.
4 or 5 careers now.
Yeah.
What do you think the secret is? Because you guys, at any given point, you've done a lot of solo.
Well, I was going to say never break up, but actually that worked for us too. It worked out for Camper Van Beethoven too, was to actually to break up and then get back together, and then just sort of act like what, like so what, I think. For Cracker actually really has worked. It's like, just don't break up. Keep doing what you were doing, and eventually people sort of going, oh, it's not really that so weird that they were playing roots rock in 1991, sort of before the Americana, roots rock, sort of alt country wave hit, it's not so weird that we were doing that now. Whereas that was sort of jarring to a lot of people at first. You know, I guess coming out of Camper Van Beethoven, we did something so, at that time, seemed different. And that was at the height of grunge. We were doing that too. It wasn't a career move. You know, we just were doing what we wanted, as we say in the song, and actually, maybe this is what I'm trying to get at. Okay, I was wandering around for a while there in the wilderness, but what I'm trying to say is that the key to longevity is to actually to continue doing what you actually want to hear and play as a musician and as an artist, what you would like to hear on the radio, or what you would like to hear in the CD player, in your car, on your iPod, or whatever, and just have faith that there's other people out there that are like you and share your tastes. And that sounds simple, but it's actually really hard to do, and it's hard for a lot of bands never manage to do that because it's just so tempting to listen to commercial concerns or just say, oh, these younger kids, look at them, they're doing that hip hop rock thing. We should be doing that, you know. I don't know, or it's hard to like sort of really stay the course and just sort of do what you want to do. But if you do that, eventually people will respect you for that.
Mm-hmm. And in some ways, I know you're talking about the collective view because you put out solo records that are great. You put out a solo record, and you guys do your own thing. And when you bring it all together on stage, you get it all.
I think what I realized when Camper started playing again, we were playing a show and there was just a lot of momentum to it, a lot of power to it. You know, you realize that these are the guys I grew up playing with. You know, like I have a really nice solo band right now. I mean, part of that is probably the fact that Jonathan and Greg have been playing with me, but I've got this great rhythm section. There's a lot of power there, but it's not. There's something. It's really organic to having grown up and playing with these guys, and it's kind of weird, you know, because I'm not an original member of Cracker, but I feel the same almost playing with them as it's just. There's something about it. I don't know. Maybe it's like where we're from, or maybe it is the shared history. But there's just something about it. It is family at this point for sure.
Yeah.
And there may be something to the work ethos of where we're from. I mean, it's kind of the hard scrabble part of Southern California.
IE.
Yeah, the IE. It's not about hot tubs
IE.
and movie stars.
The
It's
real
about
IE.
farmers and people just picking out a living. And so some of that's in our bloodstream to just. What are you doing? Stick with it till it works, And
were you able to put extra money on your mortgage? That's those are big questions in my family.
Be smart about things,
It's funny how it's come around to that because there was a while when people first got into Camper, it was something else. It was this hippie band from Santa Cruz, and then now people.
Even though we were from Riverside, Redlands, but
exactly. Now people know the whole story for all these years.
But we moved up to Santa Cruz because it was more conducive. Camper Van Beethoven started in the Inland Empire, but it was the Northern California ethos at that time was more conducive to what we were doing, because up there they understood we weren't real hippies. We were fake hippies, and we were doing sort of playing with this thing. What we were really drawing upon, or kind of our heroes, were sort of this mix of Southern California psychedelic and early surf bands and stuff like that. But in particular, a group called Kaleidoscope, which came out of the Inland Empire in the 60s. They had 4 fiddle players in their band. Everybody played drums. Everybody played fiddle, played guitar, stuff like that. That was like our sort of thing that we were like, well, we'll sort of be like a punk rock version of Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, there's the great.
They came out of our area.
There's a great tradition of bands like Kaleidoscope. That's where David Lindley's from. There's the Zappa thing. There's the Beefheart thing. There's this. It's kind of
War.
Yeah, war.
Yeah.
It's like California outside music. And later it became like the Blasters and things like that. But there's this whole tradition of people who are just holed up because California's big. It's really big, and there's a lot of weird stuff. California's like. You get Bakersfield, Los Angeles, San Francisco. I mean, just those 3 towns, like the connotations as far as the history of music. But then, like the Latino influences, and then you're a teenager growing up here, and the Monkees are on TV because we're kind of, of that. I mean, I don't know, we're not quite 60s children, but, that was stuff. People just kind of did everything. And so, really, I think what we grew up with the idea is you can just do whatever it is, except, you know, our unifying thing was that we kind of grew up in punk rock. I mean, punk rock was the thing that was happening when we were young.
Tonight, and you do the Cracker thing. I'm not sure in which order how that switches from night to night, but then it becomes a camper thing. Is it a different thing going on in your brain, or is it all kind of seamless when you're up there playing?
Actually, the new guy, who's only been playing with Camper for 7 years, Frank, the drummer from Cracker. And
He's only been playing with Cracker for 11 years.
Yeah. He's the new guy.
He's the new guy.
Right. Longer than most bands exist.
But he explains it really well. It's like Camper's kind of a beer band, you know, or Cracker rather. It's just kind of like, you know, from the gut, you know. It's just kind of learning. And Camper's kind of like thinky. Like Camper's very like this, and Cracker's much more like this.
I think he said it. Well, you're trying to avoid it. He said Cracker was a beer band and Camper was a pot band.
That's true. No, I was too stoned. I couldn't remember.
And you get a break every night, or do you pop in and?
I get such a break. I get to be such a slack ass around this scene. You know, these hardworking gentlemen have a long night, and I get to watch them. See, that's the part of the thing is that I was a huge Camperman Beethoven fan. I knew these guys before that band formed. I knew them in their other bands, but I was a huge Camperman Beethoven fan. And when they regrouped and put out a fantastic record, we wrote Times, people was like, well, what are you going to do? Well, I did a solo record, but I also spent time like jumping out on the road and going to see Camper shows because I was so excited that they got back together. I mean, you know, I'm kind of a Camper stalker. No, I'm not going to go strangle them or anything or have sex with them, but I really, really do love the band.
Yeah.
So it's, that's, when we both bands play, that's what the night is for me, is that I'm playing in Cracker with my good friends, and then I get to go and sit down. And my 19-year-old son, who's also a big Camper fan, is coming tonight, and we're going to get to sit back and watch Camper band Beethoven. You know?
Yeah, people would come up to us on tour when we were out with Cracker and stuff like that. Somebody would be like, I swear I am the biggest Camper band Beethoven fan. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not. Johnny is. I mean, he knows that.
No, that
he's got all the record.
That song's from 1 and 2, man. No, that version is from a B-side that, you know.
Right.
If you get the cassette, yes, it's actually a different order. But anyway, yeah.
Just talk about. I want to get a few things in about the record itself, about Greenland. If you just put in words what you're trying to do with that album and how it maybe differs from.
Greenland is came out of a collection of songs that were written and recorded and sort of demoed and half recorded over a period of like 4 years. And what's interesting about Greenland is that it was sort of the first time I really tried to go through and go, okay, I want to make this record actually kind of thematic. And if I pull these 12 songs out of what we've already sort of started, and then add these 2 songs to it, or whatever, and finish this, we kind of have this record that sort of reflects a lot of what actually sort of went on in my life the last few years and stuff like that. You know, and I told him, it's like, I'm going to do this. I've never done this, but I'm going to do a little bit more of an autobiographical record with sort of thread. And the thread is, the theme of it is that it's all loss. But, you know, it's loss of youth, lost love, lost stuff, getting your stuff ripped off. I mean, it's not like as people go like, man, that's, you know, oh, it's great, it's a dark record. It's actually done with a lot of sort of black humor. I don't know, just kind of a record that, you know, story that I wanted to tell. So.
Coming out of that, is that a cathartic experience? Is that safe to say that you kind of?
No, not really. Yeah, what else could I do?
The only recourse.
Why not have it be? It's an autobiography. Why not a solo record? These guys are doing solo records. Why not have this be the?
I don't know. If that's really a solo record for me would be like. I'm not really sure what a solo record would be just yet. I like playing with bands. I like having a band around me. I like having a song 3/4 done and having a band finish it. I like that.
Yeah.
I've done plenty of demos, and that's what solo records are, sort of your demos. I don't know. I've done plenty of that.
Yeah. Well, you guys never stop. Just talk about you talk about a day job, this and that. But you guys always being creative. You guys always writing new songs. Always, I know you have a studio. Are there always things going on like that?
Always something.
Always something. We stay busy, especially kind of the three of us. Just that if like when David's producing, I'll hang out with guys half my age and see what they're all about, and just mix in with different groups of musicians and just kind of keep it soaking. And I think Victor does the same thing up in the San Francisco area.
I have to keep moving. I get, I mean, we had maybe probably for me the longest time off since we started playing again. I hadn't actually played a gig in maybe 2 months, and we played over New Year's, and my fingers, I blistered, one of my fingers blistered. It's like I kind of freaked. So it's like, all right, I got to get another project just so I keep
your calluses.
Keep my calluses up. But the problem is that the bass player who I hire has every gig that I want, so I have to con him into you just don't want to play with him right now. Just tell him you don't. So, but I need the money. It's like, well, he can pay you the money. He doesn't have to pay me. I just need some chops.
Right. And you have a new solo record coming.
I do. Yeah. The same company that just did this DVD that Camper and Cracker put out, and it'll be out next Tuesday.
Oh, very cool. Right away.
So right away. Next week.
Talk about the DVD a little bit too, for people that aren't lucky enough to get out to these shows. If you can kind of talk about what people can expect and how they can get a hold of this.
Well, we started a festival. We would be that Camper and Cracker were playing shows together, and we sort of were going to have sort of a birthday sort of celebration. Sort of both bands play together. It was around several people in the band have birthdays in September, and we're like, well, we'll sort of do this show out at our sort of favorite bar, which is out in Pioneer Town, California. It sort of turned into a little mini festival for with Camper Band Beethoven being sort of at the top of the pyramid, and then all the bands that sort of came out of that and that were related to that, and the different musicians we played with over the years and stuff like that. And we put together a little festival as well with some local bands out there. And then it's just sort of grown and morphed every year. So the first year that we did it, a lot of people videotaped it. It's very informal compared to...
You talk loud enough for you to hear?
It's our opening band, Led Zeppelin.
It's very informal the first year, and that's what's cool about the DVD. Is it's the first year. It's a lot of just friends and acquaintances who brought cameras and stuff to film all this stuff, and that's why we put the DVD together this way. It's very informal. Mm-hmm. And there's no interviews, there's no nothing. It's just raw footage of stuff that happened that first weekend that we did it.
I think, it was funny, I was reading, you have to be careful when you read, your fans, comments about stuff, and well, I wish there had been, more interviews with the band about what the festival is, and it's why? It's just something we do. I mean, I think, there's enough word of mouth about what we do, and, we really just want people to come and listen to music and enjoy it. The DVD is just a document of that. I don't really kind of rockumentary kind of, well, David and I were sitting and talking, and we had this great idea. It's who cares? It's just the bands doing it. It's kind of the sequence of it's more or less the sequence of how things played out at the festival. And it ends with Johnny staggering on a porch in front of the hotel room
with a bunch of my buddies and impromptu jam sessions that fade off into the night.
Are you guys at this point just above everything else, just having a good time? Is that what it's all about?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it's really nice to be able to actually play.
To quote David, we are lucky bastards.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could be doing other things,
Exactly.
if we weren't enjoying this very easily.
You mentioned the word of mouth and people find out about things. Is that, you've been doing this long enough, does that still surprise you, or when shows fill up? Or you see DVDs
now with the MySpace thing, all of a sudden I'm seeing 21-year-olds out there who are singing along to the songs. Wait a minute, how old were you when Teen Angst came out? Well, MySpace, man, you guys are the alternative rock godfathers. I mean, Camper, Cracker, man, these are guys out of my son's age, and I celebrate that. That's wonderful. You know, that they're catching up now, or I got your CD from my dad. That's okay too, or that they found it on their own, and they're 22 and they're 19, and that's, you know, God bless the age of the internet.
Actually, the funny story is about MySpace was the first year we did the festival was sort of how I discovered. I was just like, like my friends in bands were just like, they were on Friendster, and I was sort of on there for a while, and I burned out on it. And I discovered the power of it. That was actually for their first festival was just sort of like, well, I could just sort of sit here and just sort of search for people within like 100 miles of like where we're going to do this little festival that look like they have the same taste that we have. And I can ask these people about local bands and like all this other stuff. We sort of got it by just playing around, you know, like MySpace and Friendster at first. And then lo and behold, this has really taken off and really become a way of promoting bands. But it was interesting because we built that first year of the festival. We did it strictly through that. No advertising, anything, you know.
And running a label, and you guys started off kind of into one point and doing the whole major label thing for so many years. You're at the point now where you guys, you know how to do it your way and make it work for.
Well, it's the same way that we did it when we started Camper Band Beethoven. The way everybody's doing it now is like, like social networking and using the internet and stuff like that, and Street Team and all that. We're like, that's what we did in the original days. I found this notebook not that long ago. It was like a three-ring binder notebook that had these forms that we'd obviously made at like Kinko's or something like that, or the Copy Place or whatever in Santa Cruz. That very interesting because I opened them up and it was just like it would have a town name and it would have other bands listed on there that we knew, some phone numbers, some addresses written in. It would have the local weekly's name. It would have the local college radio's name, and it'd have the program director, the music director. It might have a commercial radio station's name. It had just different things, daily paper, who the music writer was for this stuff. It was this database that we built up that was just written, and it was oriented towards like a tour. Like we would go on tour and we would see which towns we were going to, and we copied this information down, just little check marks of who did we call, who did this, you know. And it's just exactly what we do today. I mean, what people do today, and it worked for us. Then.
Yeah, it's always been. I mean, everything I do now, promotion for either of these bands, anytime I come, it's all a social network. It's all word of mouth, and it's all. You know, like if we're working with a publicist, I just call the publicist and tell them, find this person. I usually know. Yeah. You know, I mean, they can give me a PR list and I can like scratch out half of it off because I know those people will write about this or will be interested. Yeah, it's from doing it all the time.
These guys really were one of the original indie bands before there was a term indie. I mean, they really did do it themselves. Yeah. You know, they'd pull into town and I get a phone call. Hey, Johnny, can you come mix our sound tonight? Cool. Do you know anybody who would do this? And just did that. Then before there was even a term,
on the road
there wasn't a term networking either back in those days. Yeah, they were silk screening their own T-shirts, and were successful. They made it work.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think they want to say. Lastly, I'm sure you guys asked, but how long do you see this going? What are your hopes and dreams for this music for the next few years?
2047, we're going to have this big reunion party.
I'd like to just keep doing it, you know, as long as it's not killing us and making us stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I told Johnny, you know, it's just like, you know, in our 60s we have to have a surf band, so. You know,
instrumental surf band.
Exactly. So, you know, it's gonna. That's a ways yet. So.
Right.
By then, David will be a senator or something, and we'll just sort of play his inaugural or whatever. You know, that'd be great.
All right, guys. Very cool. Thank you. I remember reviewing actually a Jonathan show, Cafe Chameleon in Santa Cruz. When I started the Santa Cruz Independent paper.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, you were actually there at the show that night, if I recall, but it was a Jonathan solo show, probably like in '88 or '9 or something like that.
Yeah. What paper did you start?
It was the Santa Cruz Independent up on campus.
Right, yeah,
it was like the second paper up there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Real pleasure.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
yeah. Can I bug you guys for something silly? Can I get a picture with you guys?
Absolutely.
Oh, sure. station.
Citizen Hill. Resident Alien.
There was a band, the Wrestling World.
Oh yeah, I played bass in them.
Did you get
like
it?
first year?
I never seen them here.
Yeah, that was a crazy group of people.
You know, there's a kind of weird.
It's real hard.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks, Barry.
Worms. Did you guys do shows with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's kind of a wrestling worms in Athens right now. They're a little different. Is that your stuff?
That's okay. Thanks.
Um,
Have a good show, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. It's called Dark Meat.